Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I've got Mars Girl here with me. I am excited and looking forward to this and a little bit nervous. Thank you, first off, so much for joining me. I know it's been like quite the endeavor you've been up to. For anybody who doesn't know, she
Well,
did an 11-hour documentary. Jesus.
well, thank you so much for having me. And you're the only person that I agreed I wanted to talk to, largely because I couldn't think of any other YouTubers off the top of my head that at any point really tried to give any sort of pushback to the
Oh.
narrative that was being presented on YouTube by all these grifters, and the only couple of people I could think of were like all the way back in 2019, right at the beginning of it. And the second, like, these two people I can think of put out a video, they got swarmed with hate, and they unlisted those videos
Oh, no.
immediately.
Oh,
Yeah, so
no.
like I can't even go back and find those original videos that they put out in the first place. So
Oh, yeah, this
that's
was
how bad it was.
it was bad. And like there's a lot in your video that you covered that I knew about. There was a couple things that I didn't, and most of it was just like the sheer scale and like how big and how absurd and ridiculous, because I was never part of the con scene. So
Right.
didn't like, I knew about it. Even I had heard about this guy in high school, even because I had friends that went to cons, and it was in like years ago. Everybody knew Vic was a fucking weirdo. Like everybody knew that.
It was
So
very, very common knowledge. And so to be bombarded by a bunch of dudes that very clearly also, like, do not go here, they've never gone here, they were never even remotely part of the circle, and telling us what we all already knew, like, that doesn't make any sense. It was so upsetting.
it's such a microcosm, like a big microcosm, don't get me wrong, at least if you're a part of it or you're in the anime scene at all. But like if you're not in the anime scene, you wouldn't get it. So it's odd to me. I shouldn't say it's not that odd to me. It doesn't surprise me that angry yelly men on the internet feel like they know what they're talking about when they clearly have
That's
no
true.
fucking clue what they're talking about.
That's true.
But how are you? How are you feeling in general?
Well, as far as health is concerned, like, I would have done this so much sooner. But just to tell your chat too, like,
Sure.
the day that I put that video out, I came down with the flu so hard. Like, I really wanted to do this part much sooner and then be done with it way sooner than this. But now I finally am back at the point where I've got most of my voice back, and I'm doing very little throat clearing or whatever, and I'm not contagious finally. I can finally
Finally.
leave the house. Yeah.
Oh God. Well, a couple things to be congratulated on. One is
Mm,
you did a fundraiser, this video that you made, this 11-hour documentary that everybody had been asking for, everybody had been waiting for, and nobody was able to do it. And like
mhm.
realistically, I can't think of a better person to have done it. I think you did such a fantastic job. But you
I
ended up
appreciate that. Thank you.
making it a fundraiser, so you didn't profit off of this at all.
Right. Boy, do people think that that goes to me in some way. Like, I don't understand. Like, it's so easy to be able to tell what YouTube giving is and does.
Mm.
Like somebody on Twitter, I have to be told this because I don't hang out on Twitter anymore, but somebody on Twitter was like, look, she stole the money from the fundraiser and then paid for a ticket to go see a Final Fantasy concert in downtown Los Angeles. And like that money does not go through my hands at all. That goes through, like, if you want to come up with a conspiracy about what Google does with the money
Sure.
before it gets to rain, fine, do that, I guess. But like, if I need to like pull up the receipts to show that I paid for those tickets months ago with my own money, it's got
When did they
nothing
think
to do
time
with the
exists?
fundraiser.
Good God. There's there's so many of the things I think you talked about in your video that are just like basic explanations of relatively simple things in those fields that people just for whatever reason weaponize ignorance to try to say that something's happening when it's obviously just not how anything works. Like
Right, like, it shocks me
hearsay?
how many. Yeah, hearsay, just what people think you can and can't get fired for. Like, it just tells me how many people have never had a job before in their lives. You know,
That's
like,
one of the
oh
things I've been
no,
watching. I'm like, so much of everything, when I've been talking about Vic Mignogna and his whole situation, I've been going, that's normal. Why are we, what are we, why are you
yeah,
mad?
yeah, yeah.
But you managed to raise nearly 3K for Rain, and do you want to briefly just tell us what Rain is and why you chose Rain? And I might need you to turn your gain down just a touch more. I'm sorry
Yeah,
about that.
yeah, let's hit that knob a little more.
There
Let's
you go.
try that. Is that sounding better?
Yep.
Hopefully it is. So, RAIN is the Rape and Incest National Network. I believe that's the acronym what that's for. So it's specifically to support people who have been abused in some sort of a way. And there's only certain charities that you can pick from through YouTube
Right.
Giving, right? And RAIN I thought was a very worthy one to
Appropriate.
be able to direct
Topical.
it. It very yeah, topical and appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was very just made sense given the content that we were going to be talking about. And it also felt like, to anybody who thinks that, like, God, it's horrible that she's profiting off of this topic, like, yes, that would be very horrible if that was a thing that I was doing.
That were the case.
I would not want to do that. And therefore, I already knew I wanted it to be demonetized. I knew I wanted the
Sure.
video to be demonetized. So even if I hadn't hit a couple of copyright claims, which I did, there were two
Definitely.
specifically. Um, Even if that had not happened, like you can see in the video, I had already declared this is demonetized. I am making that choice. I would not want to profit off of this crazy ass topic. That's insane.
Honestly, if it
Um,
was me, I wouldn't have blamed you anyway. Like, you've put enough work into it, you've gone into enough hardship. If you made a couple of bucks, I wouldn't personally care. I'd be like, yeah, no, for the years of harassment, for like the years of all this of even just organizing and putting all this together, that's worth bank. That's worth some money. So,
Well,
but you chose not
I
to.
can certainly appreciate. Yes, it was a lot of work, and I think if I were watching it happen to somebody else, I would say the same thing,
Yeah,
right? But when you're talking about doing it yourself, you don't look at it from the perspective of some other person, like looking at it from the outside. You just feel like, oh, I better not profit off of this. I don't think that would be a good idea.
yeah.
And it's funny though, like because it did get two copyright claims, and it's shocking that it's only two because it's an 11-hour video with a ton of copyrighted stuff in it, and I just didn't care. And one of the things was actually the my cover of Ready Steady Go. They got my cover. The
That's just a
cover
compliment.
got copyright. I guess they were able to recognize, oh, this sounds like Larkin Ciel, this Japanese band. It doesn't make any
That's
sense.
funny. I like that. That makes me a little bit happy on the inside. I'm gonna. Are
It's
you gonna put
fine.
that on? Are you gonna put that on like Spotify?
I've considered it.
If
I
you
mean, I don't know how popular that would be, but um,
honestly, if you wanted to be like, hey, listen, I did a lot of work for this, you can go get it off of Spotify and drop me a.
I bought a bunch of very stupid instruments for like I bought the melodica specifically for this.
I like the commitment to the meme. The commitment to the
Yeah.
meme is like, there's something about it when you go through something so traumatic, so hefty, so like abusive in nature. When you come out the other side of it and you're ending on, I'm gonna goof. I'm gonna goof around on this because like I'm done, right? Like
It's a combination of like I am so done with this, and also despite how horrific some of it was, also some of it was just so stupid. It
oh
was
yeah.
just so dumb, so comedically dumb. So like how do you not just make fun of how stupid it is?
You hit a point, right? Where it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
there's no argument to be had here. It's just at this point pointing and laughing. Like, it's just
Right.
absurd. Like, you just hit a line where it's just like, I can't even be mad. I can't even be mad.
Exactly.
I wish I could be mad. I can't be mad. I don't have the energy for it anymore. I'm just gonna laugh at this. Now,
Right. And
that
I
was.
was mad. There were periods of mad,
Oh, I
but
don't doubt that.
you have to get through it to get to the comedy of it for sure.
Yeah. There's one thing that I wanted to touch on. You brought up Full Metal Fantasy.
Yeah.
That is one of the things I had never heard of.
Really?
What the
It was
fuck?
like legendary. Like he just carted that thing around all over the country. I don't know if he took it to international events or not, but yeah, that was like his as somebody else I said in the video put it, his nerd magnum opus. I mean,
I
I think Star Trek Continues was maybe more so than that. But yeah,
Yeah,
Full
sure.
Metal Fantasy is ridiculous. You can find it on archive.org. It is there.
Okay, well, I might have a Discord watch party later because this is like if I was ever gonna psychoanalyze somebody, that's
Oh, that would be the place to do it
oh
for
my
sure.
god. So for anybody who doesn't know, Full Metal Fantasy is basically like Vic Mignogna filming himself as like how old was he at the time? 40?
45-ish,
45?
mid to late 40s, yeah.
It's having himself turning into Edward Elric over the course of this movie
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
short. And
Yeah, it's a short film, yeah.
I'm like I have to I feel like I have to watch it because I'm like
You
I
you definitely should. There's some comedy gold in it, and I think a lot of it is unintentional.
oh yeah.
That's actually one of the things that I know I had a list that I was gonna pull up later of here's stuff I didn't include, but this is
Mm.
actually a good time for it,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And it specifically relates to Full Metal Fantasy. And I decided I can't find an accurate, like a source to back me up on this. It
Sure.
would just be hearsay out of me. Well, I'm going to tell you, I just didn't want to put it in the video. I just didn't
Sure.
think that was the right place for it. When I saw him show this movie in at this convention in Houston like
Mm.
20 years ago, right? He told this story about the production of it, and at the beginning of this
No.
movie it follows this package where like he has the pocket watch from Full Metal Alchemist delivered to his house, and that's part of what transforms him into Edward Elric over time. It's really
Magic
stupid.
pocket watch.
Magic
She's a
pocket watch.
magical girl, guys.
Clearly. So he tells this story to a room full of people, which is why I was like, there's got to be footage of him telling this story somewhere, and I never found it. But he told an entire room full of people with me in it. I listened to him say this. Here's how I got the footage of this package, like moving through the post office. Okay, so what he had done was he took just a box. It was just a prop. It was just a cardboard box, and he
Yeah.
goes up to his local post office and he said, hi, I'm trying to film something for a college film project. Never mind the fact that this is a man in his mid 40s, saying, I'm in college and I need to film a project about the U.S. Postal Service. Would you let me film this package in your back room? So it shows, it looks like the package is going through the delivery
And he just
system in the
said
back.
that out
He
loud.
just, yeah, he just lied. He just lied to a U.S. government office official at the post office, and they said, "Oh, sure, this is for a college project. Come on in," and they let him film it. And that's how he's got this backroom shot of the post, like his pack. He wanted specifically, it's got to be my box. You have to see my box going through the post
Oh my
office.
god. It's like it's the premium of the if you say something with enough confidence and act like you're supposed to be there, nobody really stops you.
Exactly, and I think he's been doing that his whole life. He
Oh.
just says shit, and he just gets away
No,
with
yeah,
it. And
he's like
that to
he's
me,
one of those people that people don't he says things and nobody thinks about it and I'm like you're standing in a room, you're like surrounded by people and you're just like is nobody else seeing this? What?
right? And that like, I feel like the post office story, it was like the epitome of he will just say things and get away with it. And so I so desperately, you have no idea how long I hunted through
You're looking
videos
for
of,
that shit.
oh, Yeah, I was looking through videos of him like presenting Full Metal Fantasy and going, "Oh my god, he has to have told this story a second time somewhere." And if he did, it's not on video. But I was in the room with hundreds of people at this convention. He told this story to hundreds of people, and I hope somebody else knows what the fuck I'm talking about because I'm not the only person that heard it.
Yeah, but didn't you know that's just hearsay?
So, yeah, yeah. I guess you should be smart and like take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. I'm not asking you to just believe me sight unseen. But I guess I am asking if anybody just happens to stumble upon this and also happened to be in the room at a Houston anime convention in like 2006 and you remember this story, like please back me up because this happened. I swear to Christ.
There's like a concept that I bring up every so often because I deal with a lot of like just stupid people doing harassment drama stuff. I've been following a court case that I was recently a witness on. I traveled to Kansas to go deal with.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it's a whole thing. But it's really fucking stupid. Why is it always so fucking stupid? Anyway,
Always, every time.
every time there's this concept where like yes you should take anything that anybody says on the internet you should take with a grain of salt. Everything you're seeing on the internet is curated. The person's background,
Right.
what they're wearing, what their hair looks like, all of that is a choice. They might have made the choice to not care, but
Sure.
that's a decision, and so everything is like that. However, just because someone's lying all the time doesn't mean they're lying this time, and just because someone tells the truth all the time doesn't mean that they're telling the truth this time. But but Vic Mignogna gets really defensive all the time about the slightest little thing, and he's just where'd you hear
like
that? Where'd you hear that? He reminds me of Polyev, like a politician who's like,
yeah.
somebody
Yeah.
asks him a question, he's like, "Where'd you hear that? Who said that? Give me the clip."
Like, prove to me. If you can't prove to me in a way that satisfies me, then that didn't happen. Which to me is like, oh, so you're guilty, right? So you so
you
then
can
it happened,
use
right?
tells. It's not like you have to throw all of your reasoning out the window every single time somebody says something, right? I don't know. It's yeah.
Like it bothered me just how desperately he wanted to be viewed as someone who does not consume alcohol. And like he was so upset at the idea that somebody might have seen him drink alcohol. And I know like he in like for the rumors panels, for example, would elevate it to like I was stumbling drunk. They said they saw me stumbling drunk. And that
Right.
wasn't always the way it was depicted by people. Sometimes it was just, oh, he came to a room party and he drank. Oh, he was at the hotel bar and he drank. It was not always, oh, he was so drunk, but he's so mad. So he embellished it to make it sound more ridiculous to kind of prove that that wasn't true.
Then he's denying a claim that was never even made. So obviously,
right.
like it's straw manning at best, and at worst, it's purposefully inflating. So, like for example, me, I would never do something like that, and that has been so skewed out. But they did that thing.
Yes.
Obviously,
I know
they would
exactly
do that
what
thing.
you mean.
It's like watching him with Alex Stein. It's like you can see him
Yeah.
being like, okay, this is kind of transphobic. Okay, this is kind of homophobic. That this signing of continuity-based fan art, whatever the fuck. And then he turns around a couple of years later, after all of this is blown up, after his career's basically, he shot his career in the foot like 17 times. He goes on Alex Stein and mask off.
Yeah, he may as well not even hide it anymore at this point. Because, like, why bother? Why bother? We all know now. So why bother, I
I
guess.
keep telling him that he should just do the right wing grift. Every time I'm talking about and looking at his stuff, I'm like, "What? It's so easy. You could make so much money and just do. You're a more charismatic Kevin Sorbo, right? You can do the same
Hmm.
thing and actually grift it properly." And I don't know if he's kind of trying with Alex Stein or not, but I feel like he would feel like too big, like he's a big fish in a small pond, and now he would be a small fish. Like people aren't going to care as much in the right wing grift about what he has to say. You know what I mean? His
Sure.
usage is kind of spent.
Yeah, I think he does have an ego that's like anywhere he goes, he needs to be the best at that thing. And that's kind of another thing that didn't exactly make it into the video
Mm-hmm.
is that for a while, he tried to come out to Los Angeles to do anime that is dubbed in Los Angeles. And he did successfully ish kind of do it for a little while. Like, take for example, he did some stuff in like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, for example.
Mm-hmm.
It was over at Bang Zoom. So he did some Bang Zoom dubbed stuff, but from everything I have heard, which is why I didn't put it in the video because they were just things that I had heard from people. It was
Yeah.
just like he was not just skyrocketing to the top of Hollywood area voice acting,
Right.
and people did not like immediately just need him, and he really was not enjoying that, and so back to Texas he went.
That's like his whole life, though, right? He grew up in a small town where it was run by the town is basically occupied by the church. He went to a
Hmm.
boys' school occupied by the church. He went to Liberty University occupied by the church, where he was like
Right.
friends with one of the higher ups. Like he's had his whole life like boosted by other people that are more important
Hmm.
than him. And then as soon as he tries to like he steps a toe out of space, like he rocketed up from Full Metal Alchemist, but that wasn't because of him, and he seems to think
No.
that it is. And it's just like no.
It's really interesting. Like everything about his character is basically frozen in time at Full Metal Alchemist. You continue to see the way that he continues to style his hair, the way he
Yes.
dresses. He's just like deadlocked in the year 2005.
2005 boy
Just,
band.
yeah, yeah. He's never progressed out of that.
That's
Not even a little bit.
which leads me back to this Full Metal Fantasy thing where he's regressing in his mind and the character is taking over who he is and this character is a child. And it's just
Hmm.
like what kind
This
of
character is like 13 to 15 years old. God.
still waiting for an Uron High School Host Club reboot?
Oh, I wish. I wish they would
Yeah.
do it.
What's with the Clannad thing? What is with this obvious lie that is like obviously he even gets defensive in like
Oh,
way
about
early
Clamp?
on in
Yeah,
panels like
yeah.
about not even like like things that don't matter. Oh my god, this character's not gay, guys.
Like, why? Yeah, that's the thing I don't understand is like, if he was actually a good actor, then he would realize it's a fictional character and it wouldn't matter whether or not the character he played was gay.
Hmm.
Which is funny because he then later spins it like, oh, can't you tell that the character is fictional? Why do you care if the character is gay?
Why do you
I don't
have a
know, maybe
magnum
because
opus
that's
of you regressing into the character if you think they're fake? So weird. What the thing is like these are obvious lies. Like
yeah,
obvious.
clearly.
And like as technology kind of got more and more like people were able to record stuff on their phones, people are able to cross-check it like easily accessible information either in your pocket or on your computer at home. It got harder and harder for him to lie without when people just believing whatever dumb thing he said for no
Right,
reason.
exactly.
For no
And I
reason.
think he was really counting on people not like going back and fact checking him.
Right.
Despite the fact that after a while it was clear that he understood that YouTube was coming up and becoming more popular. And he was
Mhm.
like, who's going to put this on the internet? I'm going to tell you what the truth really is. But then, like, he forgets what he said in one room. And then he says a different thing in a different room. And he just doesn't think that anybody is going to put the two things side by side to check. He just, I don't know. I don't know.
Do you think it's a problem and like so I know like there's the dub versus sub communities, right? That are
Sure.
constantly arguing with each other. Do the dub people, or sorry, do the sub, yeah, do the subtitle people hate Vic? Because like with the Clannad thing, for example, he's already an English voice actor. So there's already a
Hmm.
point against him for these people. But all, and that's not to say these people in a bad way. I just mean this group.
Sure, sure, sure. I know
Um,
the group that we are talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And with the Clannad thing, he is purposefully representing his own views above and circumseding the intentions of the
Of
original
the
authors.
creators. Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
And lying about them.
I don't know what makes him think he's got that authority. I can understand, like, as an actor, you make choices, right? You make
Sure.
decisions in your own brain, like, if this character were me, what would I be doing in this situation? How would that make me feel?
Yeah, he can
Whatever.
certainly have the opinions, right?
Sure, but at a certain point, if the creator of a thing tells you no, this literally is the background of the character, and you're not acting through that background, I feel like that's really disingenuous. I don't know. I
I think
don't
there's
know what.
another issue too is even if like you acted it properly in the booth and you turn around and they never told you anything or somebody you
Hmm.
knew anything and then you just start blatantly lying about these creators' intentions, does that not taint the work, and would that not be very upsetting to some of like the anime purist style of.
Oh, I can imagine. I mean, as you could kind of see in that one video, um, the fan that read the manga first before
Yeah.
watching the anime was very clearly bothered by the fact that this person playing this character seemed to so wholly misunderstand the thing that they felt was kind of plainly obvious about the character.
Yeah.
So clearly it bothers some people. I don't know how subtitle purists feel about that show in specific, about Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicle. I'm
Mm.
really not sure. I know if I ever go back and rewatch Tsubasa, I'll probably do it subtitled. Um,
Yeah, I
but
refuse to watch. I stopped watching anything related to Vic a while ago. I have,
mhm.
don't get me started on Dragon Ball stuff. I cannot. I have such a love-hate relationship with Dragon Ball. But like it's it's weird. So a lot of people think that he's charismatic, and a lot of people think that he is not charismatic for like almost the same reasons. It seems like you're completely just two different
They're two
conclusions.
different audiences. Yeah. Like if you're super deep into, well, I love that he's a hardcore Christian. Then somebody else is going to be like, I hate that he's a hardcore Christian. Um, so he's not totally wrong when he's sitting here saying, oh, people didn't like me because of my faith.
That's
I'm
so
not going to
bullshit.
say
Like it's so
I'm not going to
bullshit.
say that there is zero truth in that. I am going to say that's just like one partial piece of why it is he was not getting along with people.
Well,
It
yeah,
definitely
but it's
was
not the
not
faith part.
solely,
It's a him
yeah,
problem.
like just because you believe in God and Christ and everything else that comes along with it, that doesn't immediately make you an unlikable person. But
Mhm.
boy, was Vic just doing really unlikable things for
There's
sure.
it's the difference between like the person and the stage presence, right? The celebrity versus the individual, right? What you see when it is curated versus what you see behind closed doors. Why you would get like the Vic
Sure.
locks versus like
Speaking of closed doors, those Vic locks.
there's a there's something to be said about that, but also like when that again when that mask slips, when that mask like he's like you can obviously see he's bored, you can obviously hear his whiny voice bitching and moaning in the background, you can obviously see that all these people are having this interaction. But the way I think about it is that he grew up in the church, he grew up
Hmm.
doing drama in the church, and he's got that youth pastor vibe. You know what
Oh,
I
for
mean?
sure.
He walks around the room with his microphone, he gets up to people, he's like being like
Yeah.
really personable in a way that if
Hey,
you're
kids,
yeah,
want to
if you're
rap about this?
that you like it's that's the kind of, and that's something that's taught, that's speaking, that's preaching, and he brings
Right.
those that stuff into his panels when he's like talking about anime or talking about whatever, right? And it's, I mean, it's kind of impressive because it's not something that is necessarily easy to transfer, right? Because it is a transferable skill.
Hmm.
People, you can do it online. Some people do it, and it's
For
like,
sure. If he actually understood how the internet works, he might almost be good at it. The best he's been able to do is whatever these Bible lesson things are that he's doing in his with his coffee mug and his bathrobe, which is really kind of uncomfortable, honestly.
why is
But
he so
he's doing
weird?
it. He's just a strange dude. He's just a strange guy.
Okay, well, he's done a lot of interviews. I think this is the first one and probably the only one that you're doing or planning on doing about this issue. But
Yes.
he's done a ton of interviews with different. How do you feel about the places or the people who have done interviews with him? Because it seems, I don't know. I have thoughts. I'm curious about what you think.
Well, it's definitely whoever will take him for one thing, which
Mm-hmm.
definitely means they're usually very right leaning. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they've got their own agenda of their own. They're trying to say, "Oh, here's a guy who got hit by cancel culture." A number of these interviews are like surviving a cancel culture mob, stuff like that. There are people that don't know how to spell his name. There's sometimes people that have like 100 subscribers, but like he
Yeah.
literally will just take literally anybody without thinking about who it is because he just
He
says
won't come
yes to
here though.
everything.
So disappointed.
Guy sent him an email to his very appropriate business email account.
Aww.
Then maybe then you'll find out.
He would rage quit on me so fast. You wouldn't be able to deal. Um, he comes off to me as like, as a, having watched a couple of the interviews and having watched a couple examples that you played in your video, I noticed that he's like very open until he's not. You know what I mean? He seems
Well,
very
where
like,
where do you see him close off at?
so like he gets really defensive really fast whenever anybody asks him a question that is like too direct. So like if the
Okay.
question is, "Hey, what about this specific thing? Where did you hear that?"
I mean, yeah, like especially that Anime News Network
Yes.
podcast interview. Yeah, I feel like he's trying to go to outlets where they're not going to do that to him, where they don't give him a pointed question that is even a little bit critical. And I feel like Zach, who was the guy presenting that specific question in that
Mhm.
interview about, oh, I was listening to you in this video say something about someone who was Jewish rather than Christian, and it just sort of seemed off to me. And he was actually trying so hard to be so delicate and try and
Yeah.
present it in the least like harmful, demeaning way possible, and Vic was just so mad about it that it even came up at all. Like, how dare you even slightly question that I might not be a good person?
Oh my
Just even a little
god.
bit.
I feel like I would just ask him, "Wait, why do you think so many people think you're an asshole?"
I guarantee you he would just say
Who thinks that?
Christianity, my. Oh, one, who thinks that? Two, oh, it's my faith. They just can't handle that I'm a Christian. It's the only reason why they're coming for me. It's Christian persecution. Yes, I'm sure that's all it is just
I feel like he
Christian
needs his mom to hold
persecution.
his hand. He seems like he's like a golden boy and like, "But mommy, they're being mean to me on the internet."
Those Alex Stein shows, multiple times when he has gone on those shows, he's literally called his mom
Yeah.
while on the show. Golly, this guy definitely at his age is relying on his mom so hard. I don't something about it is I understand loving a parent. Okay, that makes sense. But the extent to which he leans on her in all circumstances does not something is strange about that relationship. I don't understand it.
I know that when I went down the rabbit hole, because I watched one of the interviews with him on a stream, and he mentioned his boys' school that he went to in junior high,
Hmm.
and I was like, what? And so I went down the rabbit hole of like, what is this place? What is it associated with? What is, and all I found was sexual abuse, and I was just like, and
Right.
racism, and I'm like, everybody in my chat and me all went. So Vic was assaulted as a child, right? We all understand that this is obviously what has gone on here. Of course, we were being a little bit facetious, but we're like, if you grow up in
Sure,
this
like
kind of
we don't
environment,
know. Yeah, we don't know, but like at the same time, that is an environment that is just breeding misconduct with other
yes.
people, clearly.
And when you're
So
a
who
child,
knows
you have
what
no
happened to him,
control.
but mm,
And, well, it's one of those things that even if it didn't happen to him, great. It's fantastic if that didn't happen to him. When you're surrounded by that happening to other people, it still
sure, sure.
affects you regardless, right? Even like your
I'm sure
elevator
like it's just
story.
really normalized. That it's really normalized in that environment. And so I'm wondering like take for example
Mm-hmm.
the screenshot that I very much assume that his ex-friend Lisa Hansel
Mm-hmm.
was talking about him, and when he said he was texting a minor about how he desires her, he responded by saying, "I didn't think there was anything wrong with that." So like I'm feeling like he grew up in an environment that just sort of normalized really heinous shit, even if things didn't necessarily happen directly to him. I don't
You
know.
almost think that there's like a degree of innocence that he actually believes that these things are okay and that he just doesn't understand, and or it's mixed with, see, because I would like agree with that, but I think that like he's old enough and there's
Yeah,
a
yeah, it's
wall
mixed.
there,
It's mixed. Yeah, I don't
right?
think it is. I don't think it is solely like he is not old enough
Mm-hmm.
and have has lived in the world long enough to understand that this is not okay. But I think there's like it's peppered in there, somewhere that some community he had before in the past told him at one point in time that it was okay,
Yeah.
and then that just never left him, despite the fact that he has lived long enough to know that this shit is inappropriate.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you mentioned something that in your video you talk about how has he just not taken in any new information since he was like in grade 7? And
yeah,
that might be actually a little bit true. And like when horrific shit like that is happening around you, which we can say for a fact that stuff like that was happening in and around Vic's vicinity. Whether or not it happened to him, we don't
sure.
know, but we know for a fact that these reports were going on, his stint at Liberty, etc., 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 all involved
Sure.
heinous shit happening all the time. So whether or not he
Yeah,
was
for
aware of it,
years.
it's yeah. When you like that shit affects you, and sometimes you block that shit out, and sometimes you can't take in any new information. That's like that's psychological traumatic damage that can happen,
Sure,
and you
sure.
can, and that's the kind of stuff that goes with you forever, especially if you're never working on it. So I especially, god, that I keep coming back to that final Full Metal Fantasy shit, and I'm like, he's
You
literally
know,
regressing himself and not taking there's no way. There's no way there's not some kind of like
well, you
going
remember
on here.
too, I had shown that audio clip of his good buddy Chuck Huber just being caught on audio at a convention going, "Oh, you have to treat him like he's a 12-year-old boy. So long as you treat him like he's a 12-year-old boy, then you're all right." So I feel like everybody around him knows that like he just acts like a child all the time. So there might be like some part of him that is it
Stuck.
mentally stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah, at a certain point. Despite the fact that he is now what 62. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um
Age is one of those things
Something
that if you've got
happened
some kind of trauma, how old you are, age is not going to help you with that.
for sure, for
I
sure.
would love to see like get this man on Dr. Phil.
Which is
I
so
hate
funny
Dr. Phil.
because is It's so funny because his wife worked for Dr. Phil for like
Right?
7 months. That's another thing that I did leave out of the video was
Yep.
that she now no longer works for Dr. Phil. This was
Oh,
a
okay.
relatively recent development,
Oh.
and I just kind of left it out. It would seem, well, for one thing, a whole bunch of layoffs happened. She was not a part of the layoffs. Uh,
Mm.
but Vic's assistant was. Squally was
Squally
part of
got
the
laid
layoffs.
off?
Yeah. As
Poor
far as I'm
Squally.
aware, she started doing some freelance. For her sake, I hope she landed on her feet because she moved halfway across the country to do this job that just ended up laying her off. I genuinely mean it. Like, it would be really shitty if you moved halfway across the country and you lost your job. Like, to that extent, I'm serious.
Is
I
that like
hope that.
into
I mean,
Texas towards like where Vic is?
yeah, she now physically is in the room with him every Wednesday on his live streams.
Well, I guess if it makes you feel any better,
This,
she fell. If she fell over, she probably fell just straight onto his dick.
with
But
his wife
it's
in the next room, but no, his wife was a
sorry, I'm an
news
asshole.
anchor
I'm
for.
not that sorry. Sorry, go ahead.
It's okay.
That was me,
His
not
wife
her.
was a. That's true. His wife was an anchor for this Dr. Phil network, and as far as like that gossip bakery forum is concerned, they believe she just said some shit that didn't line up with Dr. Phil, like on her
Oh,
social media or something, and then the
oh,
next thing they knew, she suddenly wasn't a news anchor anymore. And she's making these posts like, yeah, I felt like it was time to move on, even though she'd only been there for like 7 months or something
oh
crazy like that.
God.
So now neither she nor Vic are employed. And they have a brand new $1 million house in the Dallas area. Um, don't know how they're going to handle that.
And with all
Uh,
the debt from the lawsuits.
like Vic really thought, oh my god, I gotta marry this woman who's coming up to get Dr. Phil money, so I can go live in $1 million house. And then his wife lost her job, so now who's he gonna leech off of? I have no idea. No
Squally's
idea.
freelance work, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Oh, how the mighty fall, I guess. Good God. Yeah, that was speculation on my part about Vic's mentality, so take that with a grain of
Sure,
salt,
sure.
although I would love to
That's all
see
speculation.
all speculation. Except for the thing that Liberty College is a piece of shit and there's horrific shit going on over there literally constantly.
100%.
And that he was going there and that stuff was going on well. So that's a fact. About his mentality, we don't know. I would love to see a psychologist do a rundown of him, but
For sure.
that would
and
be good
and it would be
content.
really hard. It would be good content, but it would be really hard because if you've got a good psychologist, they probably would not necessarily psychoanalyze without him like there in the room and talking directly to him.
Yeah, yeah.
But I would be very interested as well.
Um, do you have any? Well, I guess you've been kind of talking about rumors and statements that you have been able to. So most of what was in your video, sorry, all of what. Let me correct myself. All of what was in your video, which you seem to have been very intentional about, was stuff you could go back and verify and show and put on screen and say this is definitively that. Is there
Right.
anything that you wanted to put in but couldn't put in, not because you didn't want to, but because you couldn't verify it through like external means?
So the one thing that I mentioned before
Mm-hmm.
about like Full Metal Fantasy, for one thing, I couldn't find footage of him telling that story. That was
Right.
one.
The
Um,
post office story.
the post office story. There were a couple of times where there were, over the years, a couple of different women have like DM'd me and said that a thing happened between them and Vic, and they seemed to basically want me to somehow leak it out there into the
No.
world that this happened.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they didn't want their names attached to it. But I was like, if I say this, then Vic is gonna know who you are.
Right.
And I don't think that this is gonna be, I don't think this is something I can do. So that's one situation where I knew I could not I could not do that. I've
Did
seen
you
some
get any ones
DMs.
that you couldn't that you couldn't verify any rumors or stuff, and you absolutely like this was bullshit? Like this is fake. This is made up.
Like the story that a person tried to
It
tell
doesn't have
me
to be a person, but like
was
rumors about Vic and stories about Vic that have floated around that you're just like, there's no way.
that one reason why I had to verify about the statue
Mm,
that he supposedly stole. For years, I had heard that he had stolen the statue to
mm-hmm.
film for Full Metal Fantasy. That's one example where I was like, people keep saying this about him, and I understand that you could basically say anything about Vic, and you would almost believe it because he's just such a weird person, but I needed to make sure, did he actually steal the Alphonse statue? And
Yeah.
it turned out stealing was not really
Yeah,
the
it's a
correct
little bit of a
narrative.
stretch. Yeah.
Past that, I can't think of anything specific. I
Tricking
bet
someone
you,
into letting you borrow it. Technically
yeah,
stealing? Question mark.
I can see how that narrative got twisted into he stole it. I
Yeah.
see how it got there,
Yeah.
but it's a very slippery slope of that's why you don't trust hearsay totally, right? So anything even I'm saying right now,
Yeah.
like, don't totally trust me on some of the additional things that I bring up,
Yes, absolutely.
because there's a reason why I did not put them in the big video. Um, Past that, I can't think of anything specifically, but I bet you I will just suddenly remember something later
Oh yeah,
and
yeah. Take your
just
time, think it.
jump back in with
Let
it.
that stew. Um, I liked what you brought up about the concept of the missing stare. Is that something
Mhm.
that you kind of knew about ahead of time, or is that something you kind of more came across while you were researching and working on this?
So that very specifically was because, kind of like the way I presented it in the video, was
Mm-hmm.
that Hazukari person
Mm-hmm.
who was being brought up at the very beginning of January 2019, before Vic's whole downfall happened, right?
Yeah.
It was after people started talking about Hazukari that other people were realizing, oh, this is just one guy that we know has been a problem. What about all these other people that we know have been a problem? And so at that time, people were throwing around the concept of the missing stare. And
Right.
so at that time, that was the first time I had heard of it
Mm-hmm.
myself, too. So that stuck in my mind for sure. Like,
For
oh,
all that
yeah,
time.
absolutely. Yeah, for all
Wow.
that time, it stuck in my head. Like, yes, Vic is 100% a missing stare or a broken stare that people just have kept telling each other about. Like, oh, don't be alone with him. You better be with other people if you're going to be anywhere near him or
Oh
whatever, you
God.
know. And we
Ugh.
just didn't ever do anything about, like, nobody ever um threw him out of conventions, even though all these conventions were like, god, we all know what he's like, we all hate working with him, but I guess we're gonna bring him back, huh? Yeah, I guess so.
Ugh.
Why
Why?
why do you keep doing it?
Oh God. Well, I think you've made a really good culminative case overall of just sort of like a collection of things that happened. And I've noticed that when you sort of just take facts and put them together in like an itemized list, people who are
Hmm.
shitty really don't like it because people start to draw
Yeah,
conclusions based off of just the facts of the matter. Do you have
they
like
really don't like facts.
right? Do you have like a favorite or least favorite like point that you made? It's just like this is the most convincing thing to you.
God, I feel like the coffee line is pretty damning.
Oh
Just
yeah.
as far as things that you can just watch him do, that's just
Hmm.
really weird. But it's also a favorite because chuds absolutely look at it and just go, "This is very normal. What do you mean?" Or like him behaving the way he did with the children during the cosplay contest at Dragon Con,
Mm.
making these weird, slightly vaguely sexual comments at children. And what do you mean? These were very normal things for him to say. Like, these are things that I feel like to a regular person, you just look at it and you just go, hey, that's a shitty thing to do. I feel like this is a very blatantly, don't say that to people kind of a thing.
I,
But weirdos would be like, no, the Wonder Woman cosplayer, who's maybe at best only 6 years old, she definitely, of course he would say that to her. What do you mean?
all those people need to be on a list.
I know, I
Get
know.
out, get out, get out. No. What do you mean the 6-year-old is trying to seduce the 50-year-old? What do you think that
God,
does
that was
to the
something Nick
6-year-old?
Rekieta said. Yeah, Nick Rekieta himself was like, "Oh,
Fucking
the
guy.
Wonder Woman cosplayer was flirting with Vic."
The
What the fuck
6-year-old.
are you talking about? She was just standing on stage and doing the pose that her parents told her to do. What do you mean?
Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Drake from the chat is saying that they think one of the best parts of your video was commentary on Vic's deposition. Vic really torpedoed himself. I agree. I thought
God, he
that was
did.
brilliant.
I realize I went on and on about that deposition, but I think that just
I think that was
speaks
good.
to how bad that deposition was, that you could make that runtime so long. Like, he just says so many things that proves that he doesn't know anything about anything that has
Yeah.
anything to do with himself. How do you have a whole fan club based around you, and your mom partly runs it and you just know nothing about it? So either he genuinely knows nothing about it or he's fucking lying, and I think
Well,
he's
and it's
partly lying.
the mom that he calls and talks to on a regular basis. Like they don't talk about any of this shit.
As far as I have heard from former members of the Risen Bull Rangers, oh no, he absolutely is very well aware of what his mom does in the Risen Bull Rangers. He's just
Uh huh.
full of shit.
He's
He's just
just
full of shit.
fucking lying. I understand people wanting to be like tentative about what you believe. The thing is Vic's deposition fucks himself harder than I think anything else does. All you have to do is actually listen to what he says, and I do not understand the number of Vic fans that just don't listen to him. They love this man. They're gonna fall. Get down, Mr. President. And it's just like, get down from what? The gun he's holding to himself? Like, what are you talking about?
You have to wrangle the gun away from him himself. No, don't worry, we will save you from yourself, I guess. I don't know. Like the people that showing Nick's reaction to, oh, please don't say you pulled her hair. And what, you didn't watch it before you presented it to your goons? And then all the goons are going, Vic, no! What have you done? And they still stuck with him, even though they watched him torpedo himself.
Unbelievable.
Which
I
just
knew
tells
there's a
me that
reason.
they
One of the reasons
think,
why I didn't cover the deposition myself is because I knew there was gonna be shit in there that I could not verify or catch right away. It's one of those things that you want to do edited, and that's one of the reasons why you did such a good job.
but that just sort of proves to me that they don't care whether or not Vic actually did the things that he did. In fact, they wish they were able to get away with the kinds of things that Vic has been able to get away with. That's what they really want.
Come up in my comments section a couple of times with Vic fans. That conversation has happened. Um, the when he tells his fans on a regular basis what to and not to do. I call this plausible deniability because he winds them up and then says, don't harass anybody though, and then encourages them when they harass people to go and do those things. And so, to me, it's like the juxtaposition that you played in your video between the screaming fangirls he had in the early 2000s to a bunch of like chuds is sitting there being like not nearly as enthusiastic, not nearly as enamored with both him or what he had to say, which is an objective downgrade. So as much
For
as
sure.
right,
I'm sure he hates it. I'm sure
I
he
hope
hates
so.
that he goes to conventions and he does not nearly have the throngs of teenage girls coming up to his table that he once did. I'm sure he cannot stand that. I'm sure he loves their money.
Sure.
That part I'm sure he's very happy about. But yeah,
Assuming
I
they
don't
have
think
any
he's
left
very.
after they got skimmed.
For sure, for sure. Like, and he just keeps doing it. He just keeps doing things that will leech people's money. And I know people keep accusing me of like, oh, you just want more money. And I'm like, but Vic though, he's clearly doing that. He's clearly doing
Yeah,
the thing you keep
projection.
accusing me of doing. Yeah, yeah. This guy.
It's one of those things where it's just like bro is downgraded into barely a handful of people enough to fill a long table in a restaurant, showing up in a back of a parking lot of a place that they weren't welcome in a town they weren't welcome in, throwing a dart
Like
at them.
even on those Alex Stein appearances,
Hmm.
he only goes because Alex Stein is one of the only people that will invite him, right? But he clearly hates it. He clearly cannot stand it. Like, I showed a small snippet
Yeah.
of him just flipping his shit at Alex because Alex, like, when they were trying to do an open prayer for a non-binary child so that the non-binary
Oh.
child would stop being non-binary, then Alex Stein afterwards like got on his hands and knees and started speaking in tongues, almost like comedic, like he's making fun
Yes.
of this shit, he's not
Yes, he
taking any of
is.
it seriously. And that's when Vic just lost his shit at him. Do you take anything seriously? No, don't look at the camera. Look at me. Look at me when I'm talking to you. Do you take any of this seriously? Do you know my mom watches this show? Like, he was so. My mom hates it when I come on this show. Then why do you keep coming on, Vic? The answer is because he's one of the only people that will invite him anymore, and so he's just gonna take it.
Well, and
But
it's
I
Alex
guarantee you,
Stein,
he's
right?
not. Yeah, and I guarantee you, he's not happy about it. I
By
know for
definition,
certain.
Alex Stein is not taking it seriously. That is his whole shtick, is not taking and is
Right.
taking the piss. Does that mean he's doing a good job or is a good person or his content is good? Different conversation.
Different,
Again, we're
very
back
different.
to the persona of Alex Stein versus who Alex Stein the person is, and that is clearly a character. Like he's
Clearly, but Vic takes it very seriously. He's very upset if Alex does stuff that seems to mock Christianity.
which Alex Stein is doing on purpose to get him riled up for the audience. Like it's
Yeah, he's doing
intentional.
it for it's for the grift, it's for the show.
Yeah.
You almost can't get mad at it except for how deliberately inflammatory he's being, right? Obviously. So
Yeah.
then if you know that that's the kind of person Alex Stein is, why keep going back to it? And the answer is just that he literally can't go anywhere else. This
Yeah.
is what he has relegated himself to at this point.
Um is there, if you had like a question, like if you were to be in a position to confront Vic, would you have, like, obviously you're probably not going to have a conversation with the guy anytime
I
soon,
would
especially
never.
like
Realistically, I would never. But I will play the fun what
play
if
the
game.
hypothetical.
Yeah,
What
the
if
hypothetical.
you were in the position to quote unquote interview him publicly, or if you were in, or even in a room privately, would you, what would you want to talk to him about? Like what would you ask?
Maybe the murder plot. Maybe
The
the
murder
murder plot.
plot. For anybody who doesn't know, there was
Because
a
I
murder plot, an alleged murder plot.
so I will go ahead and take the grain of salt and say I don't know for certain whether or not Vic himself said yes, help me orchestrate a murder, but I 100% believe that some kind of a conversation happened
Yeah,
completely, especially because Squally basically confirms it. Squally basically says she says that it happened differently, but that it happened, that this conversation happened, and that Farah definitely believed that this is what she thought she was supposed to be doing, right? Potentially helping to orchestrate my murder. So if I were in a one-on-one, I'd be like, so hey, How about that murder plot? Like anything that would come out of his mouth, I wouldn't be able to believe because we've seen too many times where clearly he just fudges shit all the time. He just lies about things all the time. But I would want to hear out of his own mouth, like, "Hey,
Were you trying to kill me?
why were you cool with her? Uh, even if not trying to kill me, clearly you were cool with her doing some kind of harm to both myself and other people that you didn't like. Like, we have text
Yeah.
messages that suggest that you were very much okay with what she was doing to help you.
Good
Um,
Christian boy,
what's up
right?
with that? Yeah, good Christian guy.
What was that? The joke of the Jesus? So I sent him to hell.
Yeah, so I lit him on fire and sent him to hell.
Why are you trying to light people on fire and send them to hell, Vic? We've been live for an hour. Do you want to give us a quick
Yeah.
break, get fresh drinks, give us a hot minute? We'll come back because I really want to talk to you about the thread knot and a little bit of the legality, but I
Yes.
thought it'd be a pretty good thing to separate those things a little bit.
Sure, we can totally take a break.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll be back in a minute or two, and just so you know, I can see you. They can't see you. And so that way, when we're back, I'll be able to know that you're sitting and chill and just give me the thumbs up. So we'll be back
Sounds good.
momentarily. And we are back. Hello, 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 hello. Welcome back.
Hello. I will occasionally be chomping on some cereal.
Enjoy.
So hopefully I will occasionally turn away from my microphone. So it's not just this ASMR
Do
of
it right in the microphone.
uh
There you go. I have a habit of doing this on this channel because it pisses people off. Is I will eat and I eat out of disrespect. So if I'm covering
Nice.
somebody who's annoying and a piece of shit, I will eat on purpose.
Just crunch away.
Mm-hmm.
Crunch away.
What am I drinking? Water. Unless you think it's gin. All right, so we're gonna dive a little bit into the thread knot. I do want to loop back eventually to some of the personal interactions you've had with some of like
Sure.
the Chuds and Vic and Squally, for example. But we'll come back to that after talking a little bit about the thread knot. So particularly, we'll use Tom's question as just a jumping off point. He asked, "Is this correct? I heard rumors that Ty's complaint, Ty Beard. So for anybody who doesn't know, Ty Beard was Nick Rekieta's real estate lawyer that they hired for Vic, and in his defamation case, which made complete
He's
sense.
handling Ty Beard is handling Nick Rekieta's trust fund. Like he's known. Ty has known Nick's family for like decades or something. And like after his grandparents died, like his grandparents left a trust fund and Ty Beard like doles that money out to him. So that's how they know each other, but it doesn't mean that he was the appropriate guy for a defamation case.
It was just a grift. It was just a grift. They were just like, "Oh, money, ha 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 ha. Look at these idiots." Anyway, I heard a rumor that Ty's complaint became sort of a gag and a laugh amongst the legal defamation field, with it getting all the way to attorneys in Japan.
Oh, in Japan. I know that it definitely crossed international waters for sure. There were lawyers that were like, I know in Australia, there were like Australian lawyers going, I know I'm not an American lawyer, but what the fuck? Like, it's just absurd, just comically absurd. God, I hope it reached Japanese lawyers. I would love to hear what a Japanese lawyer thinks about this. Mind you, Japanese defamation is very, very different. Insofar as you can say something truthful about somebody and still be on the hook for defamation in Japan.
Interesting.
Truth is not a full and complete defense from defamation in Japan, which is very shit. It is quite shit, but
it doesn't sound great. Well,
no.
So that thread knot. So the thread knot was essentially like a massive, massive, massive thread, even back in 2016, where a handful of particular lawyers
2019,
we're going through and looking at these filings and being like, what is this? Not only is this not something that's accurate or even put together right, this isn't even how you file this shit, as well as like the fake signatures, as well as like this is just not the way you put this type of document together. Greg in particular was somebody that you pointed out. Do you want to tell us a little bit about? He's the guy who...
Sure, so Greg Doucette, and we have to clarify every time we bring him up that we mean a lawyer and not this guy who apparently is like a well-known bodybuilder on YouTube with the same name. No, you very much want the bald guy in the suit. That's the guy you're looking for when you're Googling him.
Yeah.
He's a lawyer out of North Carolina, and so when he started to hear about the calling me feces is defamation filing,
not
he
literally
was like,
a piece of shit.
Not literally a piece of shit. He was like, so who is Vic Mignogna, and why does he have a moron lawyer representing him in a bumptious lawsuit? Something to that extent, right?
Yeah.
And the second he asked that question, he started getting bombarded by chuds who all were like, oh, I'm here, I'll tell you exactly what this is about. And the chuds don't know shit, right? Like, they know what they were told by grifter Nick Rekieta, who like spun this web of half-truths about what the law says they can get away with, right? And so that is when Greg Doucette used that as a launching point to be like, no, here's how the law actually works. And rather than just responding to each one of them individually as they came in. He decided, no, let's put it all in one readable place.
It's really
And I'm
smart,
just going to
actually.
keep. Yeah, it is very smart. He just kept adding to the bottom of this thread, quote tweeting these guys over and over again, uh, which is what caused the thread knot, and it caused more lawyers to show up and
Right.
also get into fights with people who clearly don't know anything, to the point where it literally broke Twitter, even when Twitter was still a functioning website, right? It just, you can't go back and scroll through it anymore. The
Right.
tweets all still exist, but it's not readable in a thread anymore, really.
Yeah, it doesn't function anymore. Back in the
Mm-hmm.
day, I did me and one of my mods in here, an intrigued feline who is feline is quite impressive with their understanding of both law. They are a layman, however, they're not a lawyer, but they've done quite a bit of studying, and we had a guffaw going through that. I think we might have done it. I think Monty and I might have talked about it on a Dumbfuck Friday that one of those years. Oh no, maybe
Mm-hmm.
no, because that was 2019. It would have been a little after that. Anyway, whatever. Point being, good
Yeah,
God.
yeah.
The absolute absurdity. Do these people not feel embarrassment? Like, I don't.
I guess not. Like, if ignorance is bliss, then they must not feel embarrassment. They really must not. I love how the Chuds really have this idea of, oh, look how stupid law Twitter is. Yes, it's the lawyers, the 100 lawyers who are wrong.
I feel like this is like
And not,
arguing about somebody who studies Germanology about vaccines.
right, right, which we all know people do.
I'm gonna
People
argue with the
argue.
astronomer about the shape of the Earth.
People do it. They
People are
come up to
stupid.
the people who do this shit for a living, who went to school for this for like 8 years at least, and then tell them, no, it's you who is wrong. Also, your 100 other friends who also did the same thing, all of you are wrong. They've got a very pointed dislike of law Twitter, because they think it's just, oh, all these crazy lawyers trying to feed us horseshit about the law. Oh yeah, well then who was right? Who won? Who won that lawsuit? How did that go? I don't understand.
It's one of those things too where it's just like the level to have the confidence of an idiot yelly man on the internet talking to somebody who obviously knows what they're talking about. No, no, no. Hold on. I got this. Okay.
Well, the other lawyers weren't making big showy YouTube videos, so how can we possibly believe them? If you
Ah,
don't put it
we
on YouTube, it's not real.
That's something that baffles me is that law, like YouTube law, has kind of exploded over the last. It's settled down a little bit, but it kind of exploded for a little while there, and
Yeah, it did.
I find that a little bit fascinating because like why like the first thing about law that you get told about law is don't listen to random lawyers anywhere ever. Like go to a lawyer and pay somebody and then talk to them. Why are you just flippantly being like, well, this random guy who claims to be a lawyer on the internet, whose history I know nothing about, and I know nothing about the firm that they work for, definitely knows what they're talking about, and I'm going to listen to them for my situation. I'm like, you're insane. What are you talking about?
It's especially the lawyers that do. You're gonna hear fire engines going by in the background like all the time.
Wee woo.
That is a thing that's gonna happen all the time. Anyway, it's specifically the lawyers that they do it as a live stream, and
Mm.
it's not too dissimilar to like the situation we're doing right now, but we're not lawyers, okay?
Right.
Like they're clicking around and they're reading things like very in the moment, and they didn't sit here and like really research what is it that I'm reading. I think literally the only lawyer on YouTube at the moment that I trust is Legal Eagle, because he like
Yeah.
very much prepares an entire thought and
Yeah.
examples, right? But all of these other guys, I very often see them say, oh, it's too bad about how Nick Rekieta turned out, because he was like the first of our kind to do that. Like, they all are the kind of lawyers that actually kind of looked up to him for doing the kind of shit that he
I
did, for doing
saw
live
one
streams
guy.
of law shit.
I wish I could remember what it was, but one of the times I was talking about what was going on, I heard when some of Nick Rekieta's like issues when he was getting arrested and stuff, and I watched one guy talking about how he couldn't believe that this had happened, and talked about how amazing it was and how people should emulate the way Nick Rekieta was at conventions that he was going to, where people were basically worshiping him. And I'm like, why are you praising this? Like, I don't understand.
Because to them, it's something about them still desperately wants notoriety almost more than they want to be a lawyer. That's certainly true for Nick. Like,
Sure.
Nick hadn't actually practiced law in years. He barely was keeping his law license up to date.
Until recently.
Like, yeah, until recently.
It is now not active.
Yeah, he hasn't been active in a long time. So like at a certain point he realized, oh, I make more money and more notoriety doing YouTube
Easier.
shit than I do practicing law. Especially out in bumfuck Minnesota. Like, there's nothing to do in Minnesota. Like,
We'll talk about
whatever.
Nick Rekieta a little bit more later. Do you have any
Sure.
like Twitter lawyers? They don't have to be on Twitter, but like maybe on Blue Sky that you would
Sure.
recommend people go and look at for like actual, like if they wanted information?
Greg Doucette obviously is great. He moved over to Blue Sky. I saw somebody in the chat asking if he had moved the thread knot to Blue Sky, and I think I saw him very specifically say, no, I'm not going to like repeat the thread knot on Blue Sky, but he'll answer questions. He just won't put them all in a big thread or whatever. Catherine Tucson is not actually a lawyer, but she is, I believe, a paralegal. And the law firm that she does work for is just fucking incredible on some of the biggest cases happening in our country right now in America. And like, she just knows a lot of shit. And as far as I'm aware, she's like on her way to actually getting a law license.
Oh, good for her.
So it is very, very good. So, but if she doesn't know it, she knows the people that do know it.
Right.
So she works with, like Akiva Cohen, I mentioned him briefly in the video, was kind of the guy that brought attention to the, my client is not an actual piece of shit, part of the documents.
So funny. Who wrote
So
this?
that's who she works for, and
okay.
like, so all these people all know each other, right?
Small world. It's an industry.
And it's very hard not to have heard about the holy shit, that Vic Mignogna guy. Like, at this point, it's a joke between lawyers,
Yeah.
right? There's definitely a shit ton of lawyers you could be talking to about, no, let me confirm, was this case actually horse shit or not? Lots of lawyers will tell you, yes, it was, and here's why.
I think that there's something to be said about like the people who go into like the debate me bro side of things, which I know like the online lawyers are tertiarily kind of adjacent to. You'll go, oh, but that's the ad populum fallacy. Just because there's a lot of lawyers who think that Nick Rekieta is wrong doesn't mean Nick Rekieta is wrong. And I'm like, listen, yes,
Sure.
but these people are all citing things. Like, they're not, these are also experts. This isn't like two people who don't know what they're fucking talking about saying, well, lots of people agree with me. No. This is experts in the field citing sources. And this guy is presenting things that defeat his own case. Like,
and like I had mentioned it in the video briefly, but like there are even other lawyers that don't like people on law Twitter, and even they were like, yeah, fuck the law Twitter guys, but also Ty Beard is a fucking awful lawyer. So like, even when people on law Twitter don't like each other and don't always agree with each other. The
Right.
one thing they agree on is that Ty Beard is a garbage lawyer and Vic should have never brought this case on in the first place.
The one thing to rule us all is that Tybeard's a dumb motherfucker. I mean, I'm not terribly well versed in law. I've been places, I've talked to people, I've studied some stuff. But, like, even I could look at that and be like, is this real? Is this what we're doing?
Are we not embarrassed by this? What is going on? Like, I don't understand how chuds, like, listen to the way Ty operates. And they so hard were like, this is our super lawyer. And are you not embarrassed when he's like
going up my only hope.
When he's going up to, like, Ron Toy, and he's like, you need to answer this question right now. If you don't answer this question, I'm gonna turn this whole deposition around right now. And, like, just getting so mad. I didn't include clips of how mad Ty was getting at Ron Toy.
So
like,
funny.
Very funny.
I do want to slow clap.
Could not get his shit together.
I do want to give a round of applause for Ron, because how well handled. And, like, I agree with what you said in your video. You can tell he's not taking it totally seriously, because why should he? Like, look at Ty Beard's
It's clearly a clown
face.
show.
Well, that's the other thing. We're not seeing Ty reacting. We're only hearing him. We can't see, like, how pink and angry his face is getting.
Which is why I so appreciated, like, on the last public hearing, right, that there were people sitting in the audience for that one, and they were reporting back, like, live tweeting. Well, maybe not live tweeting because they might not have been allowed to do it live, but as soon as it let out, they told all of the internet, like, no, you don't understand. Ty was sweating. The judge was putting his head in his hands. Ty was clearly very embarrassed. He was not doing very well at all. I'm so grateful those people. I remember them organizing, like, between lawyers, like, hey guys, the hearing is on this date. Are we all meeting up to go down to the hearing? It was very funny.
That is very funny. There was in my experience, it reminded, watching Ron reminded me of my experience in court, where it's like, I'm trying to take you as seriously as you can while you're questioning me on the stand, but the questions you're asking don't make any sense.
Like, if I had been asked a hypothetical, like, so, hypothetically speaking, is it possible that a business could coordinate to take someone down, blah, 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 or whatever? And I don't know that I would be able to stop myself from saying, I don't know. Could the Empire State Building feasibly be made out of Jell-O? I have no idea. It's hypothetical.
Oh, I don't know. Is it possible that you have two brain cells that you can rub together? Probably possible, but I'm doubting it right now.
Like, that would not go over very well in court. I don't think I would actually do it, but I can only assume it's because I no longer live in Texas.
Really?
I can only assume that is my biggest guess, because they specifically picked all people from Texas. All parties were in Texas.
Oh.
Jamie, Monica, Ron, Funimation were all in Texas, and I was not. Which is crazy, because just a couple of years prior to that, I was still living in Texas.
You were in Texas. That's crazy.
It's either that, or they decided that I am so broke that I wasn't worth suing, and they were never actually going to get money out of me, which probably true, but at the same time, like,
I don't know, this thing didn't seem like money to me. They already had the money, they were already grifting the money, so, like, it doesn't really seem like they wouldn't have gone after, because they went after you publicly very, very hard.
Oh, very much. And Nick himself said, like, he wanted me to be one of the first people that got sued. I received that letter of retention or whatever it was
Mm-hmm.
to hold on to all of my
I've got one of those
digital
before.
communications.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were thinking about it. Clearly, they were thinking about it. And I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure what the final nail in the coffin was to not include me. Because if I were them, I guess I probably would have. Because, like, the other parties did way less shit, I guess. Like, I don't, like, it just feels like a Funimation in particular. They
Yeah.
just said, we're not gonna work with Vic anymore.
Yeah.
And then they didn't actually accuse him of anything.
Right.
So like it made so little sense. I don't understand any of the decisions they made. They were all terrible decisions.
You would think for something that was so public, with the head lawyer and the like senior at the firm being so public about what was going on, you would think you would have a better idea what the fuck their plan was. It's almost like they didn't have one. Oh,
The
figures.
plan was get money off the internet. That was the plan. It didn't
Well,
matter what the end game was. They get
yeah.
paid whether Vic wins or not.
Mm.
Supposedly, I think even Ty Beard said it on a live stream at some point, and I just didn't know how to find that clip again. Like he said, "Oh yeah, we've already gone through all of the money in the GoFundMe, like somewhere halfway through that lawsuit."
Have you seen
So,
receipts anywhere? I've never.
oh,
I went
absolutely not.
looking. I never
No,
saw.
no.
I've had people reach out to Nick asking, being like, "Hey, any nothing, crickets,"
Yeah, he will never
and we all know
see
where that money
punishment
went.
for anything he's done. We don't know where it went. I mean, guaranteed it went to Ty. He just
Sure.
sucked it all up, and that's it. Like it paid for part of the legal fees. And like if I had been Vic and smart enough to pay attention to the things happening to me in my own legal case, but I
Mm-hmm.
know Vic is not actually smart enough to do that. After having lost the first time, I definitely would not have tried to go into appeals, and then I most certainly would not have tried to appeal to the Texas Supreme Court after the appeals failed. Like you're
Yeah.
just sinking yourself harder and harder and harder. Um, just financially the stupidest decision he could have possibly made. And
Honestly,
now
I
he's
think it's that
stuck
he's too
for like half a
fragile.
mil. Oh,
Yeah,
for sure, for sure.
too fragile to handle being anything, any kind of rejection, any kind of no, any kind of anything. He dude can't handle it. It's sad, really. Um, Now, you've said in your video that you were like, fuck it, sue me, I don't care. Like, try at me, bro. Which I don't
Yeah,
disagree with, to be fair. I do stuff like that on a semi regular basis. Like, what are you gonna do about it? But
right, right.
your thought process is going to be a little bit different. I imagine like a lot of any kind of fear and concern that was happening at the time has lost a lot of its bluster given the repeated failures, given how incompetently it was handled, and your legal knowledge now. But do you mind maybe walking me through what you decided to put in your video and how you kind of are deciding to approach that and protect yourself in that way?
Sure, sure. So, largely kind of like we addressed before, I didn't want to put things in the video that I couldn't back up. And I thought, like, there's actually an overwhelming amount of things you can back up with photos and videos and documents. And, like, people who are just saying, there's no proof of any of this, like, just because it was irritating to hear that, I was like, no, here it is, you morons, but fine. So that was one thing that made me feel like it's going to be a lot harder to sue me when I can literally back it up with footage of words coming out of his own mouth, right?
Right.
So that helps. But then on top of that, kind of like I said in the video, I've talked to so many lawyers over the last few years. I never would have talked to lawyers on a casual basis prior to all of this
Oh
happening.
yeah.
And all of the lawyers all like agreed, wow, this was the stupidest fucking thing. And we're almost like scrambling to be like, hey, if he gets into some shit with you, God, please include me. Please include me. We want to be included because
That's
this is so
awesome.
comically stupid. I feel very confident and very happy and very humbled that they just kind of came in like a cavalry, like we would have your back should he decide to start some shit, because this would
Mhm.
just be fucking funny.
Do
It would
you?
just be so funny.
I would laugh.
Yeah.
I would want be. I want a piece of that pie.
Yeah.
Is Do you think that he's going? Do you think Vic Mignogna is going to try to sue you? I
Like, it wouldn't shock me, but at the same time, I've been kind of vaguely paying attention to what he's been doing in the weeks since, but only
mm,
vaguely. Like, I have other people tell me
keeping an
what
eye
he's
out for
doing.
you.
I
Yeah.
I don't do it myself, but
Mm.
other people tell me all the time, right? So he's continued to do his live streams on Twitch every week, right? His behavior on Twitch has altered slightly since the video has come out, which I thought was very interesting. I don't want to presume that it is my fault, but it's very difficult not to believe it based solely on the timing, right? So, like,
Mm-hmm.
he has not been bringing up his haters. He's not talking about his haters.
He finally
Suddenly,
shut the fuck up.
that topic finally just kind of evaporated. And then, as far as I understand, on yesterday's stream, he said, "Oh, I don't want to be pushy about you guys maybe giving me a subscription on Twitch. I know a lot of you don't have a lot of money." And I was like, "Oh, really? You're acknowledging that your fans might not always have money. What happened to the guy who said, if you need help paying your bills, you're losers?" Like,
Yes.
he kind of 180'd on it. He's like trying
It's
to look a
almost
little
like
bit
his
better now.
deposition directly exposed him really badly about how much he doesn't actually care about the well-being, and he's like at best negligent as fuck. He does not
Mm-hmm.
care, and at worst malicious. He thinks he's a like if it was me. This is me.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't you. This is me. This motherfucker.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Look at me. This motherfucker not only doesn't like negligently is flippant and doesn't care about his fan base. So hey, Vic fan, hey, Drangle Keys, you guys. Not only is he flippantly negligent about you and your well-being and your financial situation, he expects you to be doing this shit on his behalf, and and he actually doesn't even like you. He thinks he's better than you. You're a filthy peasant as far as he's concerned. What are you doing? Squally got paid an exposure.
Yeah. Yeah.
What the fuck? I feel like I don't feel bad for like Nick Rekieta fans and Vic Mignogna fans, like people who got scammed. However, I applaud when one of them figures out what the hell is going on. I
Sure,
don't.
and I've had a few of those in the comment section of the video that
Mm-hmm.
like, it just once in a blue moon there will be one commenter that was like, "Oh my god, I didn't know it was this bad. Thank you for doing this." Really, at this point, at least 95% of the negative comments that are just out there to defend their boy Vic have been people that, like, they've shown plainly that they didn't actually watch the video, because
Yeah,
they'll comment on something that I directly addressed in the video, and it just, they didn't watch it.
yeah.
So and everybody can tell. So a couple of those, I decided I'm just going to leave that comment there, because everybody else in the
Embarrass
replies to
yourself.
that comment, yeah, everybody else in the replies to that comment is like, "So you didn't watch the video, huh?"
Do
There
you
was only
feel?
like one guy.
I'm sure you felt like a little
One
bit
guy.
isolated during parts of
Mm-mm.
this stuff. Do you feel a little bit less isolated now? You've got Law, YouTube, and Twitter sort of backing you up, or at least individuals from those groups kind of backing you up. You've got.
Sure.
I'm sure that you still have like people in like your real life or people that you've known for a number of years that have been able to help support you in like your support system in your real life. And now you've got commenters that are sort of doing some of the work, like they've got your back or they watched the video. But whether or not it's your back
Right.
isn't necessarily the important part. You feel a
Right.
little less alone about it.
For sure, yeah, because it's just really hard when I realize I had been way more plugged in than most people, and that's largely because, like, the bombardment would never fucking stop.
It was directed at
It's
you
not
on purpose. That's intentional.
Right.
It's isolating you and dragging you into this space where this is all you can see. That's it. That's a bully tactic.
Exactly. But now that other people are able to see the full picture, it is much less isolating. Really, a bunch of the grifting YouTubers, like, I expected them to jump on this after I released it. Nothing. Dead silent. Next to no social media harassment. I'm not saying there's been none, but it is so much smaller than I expected. It has been so manageable. Very, very manageable. And I am now slightly less afraid of telling people what my plans are, where I plan to go, like if I'm going to go to a convention. Like, I used to be scared, like, I can't tell people I'm at this convention until I'm at this convention. But now I don't give a damn anymore. If they want to be mad at me, they can be mad at me, but like, the vitriol just is not where I expected it to be, which is a good thing. It's a very, very good thing.
Prepared for the worst, expecting the worst. It's one of
And
those
it turned
things,
out for the best, shockingly.
so far. There's one thing that I find interesting, and you can correct me if you think I'm wrong here. I have a way of handling things and the way I deal with this kind of stuff. Because again, harassment groups are something that I've talked about. I talked about Creepshow art back in the day. I've talked about Vic for a while. I never get... nobody ever cares what I say. And I'm like, where's all my harassment, guys? What the fuck? Come on, Umbrella guy, fight me about your stupid statement that the police are the problem in the arrest warrant because they're dramatizing children. Shut the fuck up. But like, they never come at me. And I think that there's the one main reason, and part of it is that the way that I go about talking about these things is very similar to what you did in your video, where it's just like, here is a list of the facts, here's my analysis about it and my opinions about it. And these grifting, stupid ass motherfuckers do not know how to deal with that. They can't
They don't do it themselves. They don't actually line up facts for themselves and show why it is that a thing is the way that it is. They rely on other outlets to tell them half of that information. Like, they'll go to some other asshole's blog that they are presenting as a news source, and it's not a news source. It's just some guy spouting bullshit on the internet, and then they present that like, I've got a source. No, you don't. You just have some other guy's opinion, and then you've based your opinion on this other guy's opinion. No, they don't. They don't know how to they also don't know what linear time is. Like, they get things out of order, or they think that things that happened 10 years ago happened yesterday.
Right.
Like, they just don't understand.
It comes off to me that it's a level of lazy incompetence, so they can just make as much money while be doing as little as possible, and are
because
hold
the
zero
objective,
accountability.
Yeah, the objective is to just pump out as much content as humanly possible, as quickly as possible. You got to get that shit out daily. You can't get that shit out daily if you're doing, like, actual research.
Right.
You can't do, if you actually care about the thing that you're talking about, you're going to take the time to make sure that it's correct. We don't have time to make sure that shit is correct. We got to make money right now. And it's just so easy to make people mad. So we gotta keep stoking people's anger. That's all they're good for.
Well, and one of the things too, right, is they're never going to address these things because it's not beneficial for them to address these things. If they were to directly, it made them money, and it was beneficial for all of them to feed off each other until it wasn't. So they move on to the next thing and never address any of this shit. Ever.
No,
No.
no, they'll never address the fact that they were ever wrong about anything at all whatsoever. And especially Yellow Flash and Umbrella Guy, they're probably the worst purveyors of that shit. You can line up like, hey, no, you were actually like literally wrong about this thing, and you didn't even know what thing was in the first place. But they'll never go back to it. They'll never acknowledge that they were wrong about. God, RWBY slays me. RWBY. Thanks, Yellow Flash.
People started calling him Yowie Flash instead of Yellow.
Yayo.
Yayo Flash. Like, what are you even doing? And like that's the thing that I thought was that you brought up that I in the video as well that I thought was very worthwhile. It's just that these people had no idea what they were talking about when they started talking about it. They don't know who Vic
Right.
is. They're mispronouncing and misspelling his name left, right, and center, which is, his name's kind of difficult. I get that.
Sure.
But he was so pervasive at the time and up until this point. The fact that you don't even know that is like telling to me. Like that's
And
an
they just
immediate
they
red
just
flag.
don't know anime. Like I mentioned, I don't want to gatekeep and say like, oh, these aren't even anime people, but it's kind of difficult not to say like you don't know the name of Spirited Away and Ruby. You can go back and forth. Is it anime? Is it
Sure.
just American animation that is inspired by anime? Fine. But who in their right mind says RWBY instead of Ruby? I just
It's what it shows is that you didn't do the work to find out about what you were talking about enough to think that your opinion about what you're talking about is valid because it's not based on. It's clear that you have not based it on anything that demonstrates that you've done the work.
Well, he's clearly like bringing up the Wikipedia article literally for the first time in his entire life
It's
as
so
he is recording
lazy.
himself doing it. Yeah.
I think it's silly
Like,
too.
oh, he did this? Wow, I'm just now finding out.
It's one of those things where it's just like I think that's informative of the way their channels work on a whole. Right? So like let's say you're like, "Oh, well, Umbrella Guy covered this well but didn't cover this well." So like I think people
Sure.
think that Umbrella Guy covered like the Amber Heard Johnny Depp case well. I don't agree. I think he
Right.
got some things right, and I think by some sheer luck of falling into a pool of like it landed in his lap that he got insider information, and because of
Right, for sure.
them telling him what to say, not because of him and him knowing what the fuck was going on. I noticed a couple of times I saw him come to a correct conclusion way backwards ass way of getting there. And so like that to me is like, all right, I don't trust your reasoning and I don't trust your way of sourcing things. I might agree with I also agree that 1+1 = 2, but why are you
But you're
what?
showing the math is kind of a strange way of showing the math. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
And there's all kinds of other things that like related to each one of these guys. Like if you did a deep dive on each one of these guys, you'd just be like, that would be totally different content. It had nothing to do with Vic necessarily, but each
Right.
one of them is like a different kind of concerning. Like Umbrella Guy is one that I'm like, oh, he apparently at some point was some kind of a counselor. Like his now, I believe, ex-wife, at the time he started dating her, she was like a teenager and he was an adult. And now like they're it's still in the process of getting divorced, or they might be divorced, and he's like preventing her from being able to see their kids.
Oh,
There's
God.
just some horrific shit
But
happening in that guy's
women
personal
are
life.
emotional and dramatic, and men don't have
Sure.
drama. They just like yell at each other and then they're cool afterward, right?
That's what I hear.
Biggest fucking lie ever. Well, I do want to give one extra shout out to Lindsay Ellis that you brought up.
Yes.
Is her talk available anywhere?
Yeah. Where I'm gonna try and look it up right now. If
Yeah, take your time.
Lindsay Ellis, what did I say? It was at the XO Festival or something.
Yeah. I didn't write down where it was actually
Yeah,
from.
there it is. XOXO Festival,
XOXO
which I
Festival.
believe takes place in Washington State every year or something. I've got the link here. Should I put it in Discord or can I put it directly in your
If you want to pass it to me on
YouTube
Discord
chat?
anyway, so I can put it in the description, but
Yeah, let's do that right now. Go find you. There we go.
thanks.
There it is.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's a
Also,
great
I've linked it
talk.
in the chat as well, but I'll put it in the description if anybody wants to check it out. I'm definitely wanting to watch the entire thing, but go on. Sorry.
It's clear that she was very nervous about saying any of these things, but it was still a very well put together uh, talking point. Very great presentation, honestly. Just about having gone through her own harassment campaign experiences with people trying to get her fired from like work she was doing on our public broadcast system a long time ago. Just
Unreal.
crazy shit that she's been through. You can debate whether or not some of it was warranted, and I think most of it is not warranted. Frankly, how
That's
much shit
usually the
she's been
case,
through.
though, right? You can be upset about
Mm-hmm.
somebody and or what something that somebody's done, and your feelings about it are valid, but that does not make
Right.
it acceptable to then take that to then justify X, Y, and Z, right? So it's
Sure.
like,
A lot of it was Nazis. A lot of it was like diet Nazis.
of course, it was a
So
fucking the Nazis. It's always the fucking Nazis. Um, do you have any like you've now been through the ringer more than I think a
sure,
lot of
sure.
people have been through the ringer. Do you have any advice about how you navigated something and how you would change what you've navigated or the way you've navigated it for people in the future that might go through something similar?
I think most
Hypothetically.
people, yeah, hypothetically speaking, most people who are not me probably should unplug from social media. And I got that advice from people like a lot at the time, like, God, why are you not getting off of social media? And that's probably the correct answer or the correct question to be asking
Mm,
because like I had a reason to continue staying on social media. Part of it is connected to my work and stuff.
mm,
Um, but most other people, like if your social media is not does not it's not dictated by like work that you have to do,
yeah.
uh leave. Like even right now I'm glad that I got off of Twitter, as
Twitter's a
things have been.
shithole. Excuse me, shithole
Yeah,
anyway.
like at this point now everybody can kind of see the kind of place that I felt like directed at me it had been for just such a long amount of time, just making shit up, and like everything they say about hey defamation is bad, they sure were actively doing a lot of defamation at me,
Right.
quite a lot. God, the guy even recently that I said earlier, oh, she stole money from her fundraiser to go to a Final Fantasy concert. Like, this is like active defamation, honestly. She's doing charity fraud.
Oh god, the
Unplug.
amount of
Unplug
like
from social media.
the rage bait. It's I
I couldn't find my shirt. Today I was going to wear a shirt that said social media was a mistake, and I just could not find that shirt.
that would have
So
been
I just
great.
had to settle. I had to settle for the loudmouth whore shirt
They're
instead.
like, make sure you have a support system, unplug when you can, and like make sure you're
Right.
approaching social media in a healthy way and not digging yourself in too hard.
But at the
I
same
think
time,
that
I
makes
think it's
sense.
also important that other people around the person getting dogpiled are aware, holy shit, this person that I love and care about is getting dogpiled, and I need to make sure that they have what they need in order to accomplish whatever it is that they need to feel like a normal person. I think there needs to be more of a conversation about just how we as a society help people who are going through that. Because we put
I
all
think
of
it's a
the
good idea.
onus, yeah, we put all the onus on the person getting dogpiled to do the right thing rather than other people teaching them how you can help that person that's getting dogpiled.
Half of the reason that I cover the shit that I cover is just because I don't like bullies, and I'm very
Mm-hmm.
good at being separated out from being dragged into stupid horseshit. And
Right.
so it puts me in a unique position where I'm allowed to be like, what are you gonna do about it? But
Yeah.
that is not normal. That is not what should be expected from the average person. Not everybody can do YouTube. Not everybody the internet isn't for everyone. And so
Nah, the
like
human brain was not built for the kind of bombardment
no.
that the internet has placed in front of everybody. So there is something to be said about pulling back once in a while.
So about your interactions, like so
Yes.
you've had how many direct interactions or kind of like how much do you think like a large amount, small amount direct interactions have you had with like Squally or Vic himself? Because I imagine that you haven't actually spoken one to one directly to Vic since like you talked to
Since
him on
2019,
camera.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, since 2006.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
Okay. That was the
so
vibe
yeah,
I
it's been
got,
a
but I
long
didn't want to
time.
assume.
No, that is correct. Squally at the beginning of 2019 was directly picking fights with me, and we had some back and forth, some one on one, and she almost sounded like a reasonable person at the beginning, even though she was
Mm.
clearly on the wrong side of things.
Sea
But
lioning.
yeah, it was very sea lioning at first, and then I realized this is just not going anywhere. So her just kind of amongst a bunch of other people I ended up blocking because that was when I decided, fuck this, I don't need to take any of this shit. And I just started blocking indiscriminately. And it wasn't because she was squally and she's attached to Vic. It was just she was somebody that was bugging me, right? And then
Yeah.
like from that point on, she just takes jabs left and right. She goes on to Kiwi farms and continues to make jabs and vague threats and
Yeah,
like
somebody
when
screenshotted her coming after me on Kiwi Farms and I laughed at her.
when when something bad
She
happens
was
in her
mad that I used
life,
papyrus.
the font
The
papyrus. Oh my
font
god.
papyrus.
I mean, she uses CapCut to edit her videos, so like I don't care what she says
I am
about
literally
papyrus.
an artist. I know what I'm doing. Calm down.
No, when something bad happens in her life, it often turns around like she decides she's going to direct it at me that day and then make jabs about she doesn't have a job, she doesn't make any money. Like never mind how many anime shows I end up in the credits of and it gets put onto national television broadcasts and people keep saying she doesn't have a job and she doesn't make any money.
Well, who the fuck
Like
cares? So what? What's
and
the
who
point?
cares anyway?
Does it address the argument? What aboutism doesn't matter? Does that mean that Vic wasn't whispering creepily and inviting twins up to his room for sex, which is illegal?
There was one chud that came into the replies of the video that was like, you didn't talk about this one time when the judge got mad at Ron Toy, or this one time that the judge said, hey, maybe stop bringing up Nick Rekieta's GoFundMe. It's slightly less relevant to everything else going on. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, I guess I could have said those things, but how would that have changed the facts of the situation that like Vic burned down his entire case on camera in a
Well, if you
transcript,
want a
a
video
court
about
like
Ron, go make a video about Ron. Do it yourself.
yeah.
This isn't a video. It's not about it. It's not about you. This is about you.
Like it wouldn't have even changed
Would have
anything.
mattered.
It
Completely
it
non
wouldn't have
sequitur.
changed. It wouldn't have changed my end result of so did he proposition twins in that hotel room or didn't he? Like that wouldn't have changed. It would not have
The
changed
number
it.
of people that had come to me and say, "Well, Vic didn't do anything illegal." I keep saying, incest is illegal. There's like a couple of scenarios where it's kind of maybe not a little bit as illegal in some places in America than others. But I pulled it up. I pulled it up and showed it on screen and went, it's illegal in this state and in this state and in this state and in this state. I'm like, I hate to be the bearer of bad news here. We also don't use the legal system to decide what is societally moral or right or wrong.
That's true.
The it works the opposite direction. We as a society say something, and then we change the laws to reflect the views of society, not the
Right.
other way around. The police are reactive, not proactive. That's why going to the police about this shit doesn't work.
Exactly.
You're all
Exactly.
insane. You're all stupid. I hate all of you. Fuck off. Learn to
So
read.
so Chud interactions since
Yes.
the video have been pretty minor as far as being directed straight to me, but
Mm.
like the Reddit board Kotaku in action, as I understand, has been pretty bad. And
Oh
they
boy.
supposedly won't even watch it, so they're reacting to things that they don't even like. Maybe I actually addressed it, but they didn't bother to find out. And they
I
are
love that.
also they're also perpetuating the idea that I'm just stealing money from a charity. Um, just literally read the definition that Google puts up of what YouTube giving is, please.
For the love of God. The number of people, and I've had this happen to me on Twitter as well, people do not understand how the platform functions and are like, you
Right.
keep tagging me. It's like, we are tagged in all of the replies. Like, we're gonna keep having
So
our
untag
conversation.
yourself.
Mute yourself?
Um,
Untag it? Whatever? Go away.
or
No one
like
cares.
there was some other thing that I was thinking, oh, I definitely have to bring this up as far as chuds are concerned. But you know what? Doesn't matter. Everything they've been doing has just
A
been like
joke?
clearly that fingers in the ears, la la la. If I didn't hear it, it's not true. You know.
Listen, you know you're winning, your side is winning when you can't even handle watching segments of the video. Like, I get 11 hours is kind of a big ask. Like,
It
that's
is.
a
It
long
is.
video. If you were had to say people are gonna skip some of it, do you have like a spot where you're like, hey, you should watch at least this part?
At least as soon as lawsuit shit starts happening, because that seems to be the part that I think most chuds care about the most, right? Like,
Mm.
just watching him, Nick and Ty and Vic all collectively demolishing his case.
Yeah.
Just the part that's the lawsuit, right? Just watching him step on a bunch of rakes.
How did you manage when you were editing out all the pictures of, because you edited out all the girls' faces that he was like hugging and
Right.
kissing and leaning in. How did you have the self control to not just have him kissing himself?
I almost did it when I put them all on screen
Yeah,
at the
that's
same
what I was
time.
thinking.
Should have done it. Should have gone for it. I mean, the good news is
The coffee
though,
lines are pretty bad too, yeah.
the coffee lines were pretty bad. The good news is though, I'm very relieved at the response of the people who have given it half a chance, right?
Mm,
Because I was like,
yeah.
oh God, nobody is going to think that any of this shit is important but me. This is clearly only self serving me. I'm just doing this to feel like I said everything I could possibly say. And
Mm.
even if that was all it was, then I think I would have been happy about it. But actually, I'm really shocked at the replies, numerous replies that have been like, it's 11 hours, but I don't know what you could have possibly cut. Every single bit of it needed to be there.
No, I
I'm
agree.
very relieved that that's the reaction.
There's a couple things in there that I'm like, I don't even know how you had the wherewithal, the stomach having to because when you're editing and you're putting stuff together, you have to find it, you have to go through it, make sure it's right, then you got to get it, cut a clip it out, then edit it in. You're watching him be this creep over and over and over again, and it's just like,
This
good
was 7
God.
months. This was 7 months. Like from you and I had talked about this over Discord
Mm,
like a really long time ago, and it was
summer.
approximately yeah, it was approximately around that time that I was like,
It was
okay, I'm
July.
gonna get serious. Yeah, it was about approximately that time. I was like, I'm gonna get serious about it and start writing it. And
Mm.
so from beginning to write it to filming it to editing it was like 7 months
Were
of
you
work.
worried that people were just gonna think that you're like, oh my God, they're just gonna say I'm obsessed about this?
Oh sure, and the chuds for sure took that jab right off the bat.
Of
Uh,
course.
but but after that initial wave of like I put the placeholder up on a Wednesday and it released on a Friday, right?
Mm-hmm.
The wave of, oh, she's so obsessed was pretty much only those 2 days. And then the video actually came out and it kind of disappeared, at least as directed directly to me. Whether people are still saying that on like Reddit or Kiwi
sure, in
Farms
their
or
own little
whatever.
bubbles. Yeah.
Sure, exactly. And in fact, like they were doing a huge dislike campaign before the video launched. And they were trying to get it reported and taken down before it even launched. That was a thing.
Because that's how you know you're winning.
Right. At first, it was dislike bombed pretty hard. Past that, people are like, "Oh, she disabled the view count or the like count or whatever. She's such a fucking coward." I mean, to be fair, maybe this is some backward logic thinking, but you have to enable likes on YouTube now,
yes,
rather than disable them. And so I just kind of my whole channel, I just leave it at default.
You haven't done a whole lot on your channel like
in a long time.
So it wouldn't surprise me if you didn't even notice, to be honest.
But I mean, at this point, sure, I could turn it on, but you know what you can also do? I know you can add a browser extension that lets you see what the like count is or what the ratio is between likes and dislikes. And like, it's at 87% right now, which I don't think is super bad. I'm not scared to say that. Go ahead, install a browser extension and find out for yourself. You can easily see the like to dislike ratio.
Who's obsessed
if you
now?
Just try.
Over numbers that don't matter. It's one of those things, like, okay, so we should probably start looking to wrap up a little bit. Do you
Sure.
How do you feel about it now? Like, you feel like you've gotten to say in that video everything you felt like you needed to say, or do you still have like a little bit of leftover shout outs or feelings that you need to kind of get out there?
So the last couple of things, I don't know if this is the good place for it. The last couple of things that I remember I didn't put in the video.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Like I mentioned a couple of them before, but one of them I left out was he had previously been married one time in the late 90s.
Oh, wow.
The late 1990s in Houston. I didn't bring it up for like his ex-wife, like, is so removed from this topic. Like, there's no reason. Like, she had kids with a previous partner, so he had been a stepdad for a few years there, and like, I don't know anything about the kids. I'm not looking to drag the kid, and those kids are probably adults by now, but all the same, like, there's just no reason. I had actually done a pretty deep dive into his divorce and found all this paperwork from it. And there was one page that was like the response to, it was his ex-wife who wanted the divorce, right? She filed for divorce, and his response to something was something to the effect of, Vic categorically denies everything stated in the filing of the divorce for all of the things that she claims that I have done, or whatever it is. But it doesn't say what it is. So I deeply went looking, and either Harris County or Houston is in Houston, Texas, either they do not have, they just lost the file that said what it was that she accused him of and why she's filing for divorce, or it just never existed. I don't, or it's locked away.
There is one option, because I know this can happen in some jurisdictions, is that depending what's in the filing, you can file to have it protected.
Right, exactly. Like, it might be. So I just decided I cannot feasibly like pull up why this happened. There's not really a reason to mention it. I don't think it would have been right to bring it up in that video. People started asking me like, oh, are you going to bring up all these other weird things that he's said that he's done at anime conventions on video?
He said a lot of weird shit, guys.
there's a lot. One in specific that people kept bringing up in my replies was sometime where a fan licked his hand, and like he let this fan lick his hand, and like he's repeated this story several times. Like I wasn't sure how people were going to react to it, because maybe, like, clearly the fan was weird. The fan was clearly very weird. But also it came across like the fan asked, "Can I lick your hand?" And Vic said, "Yes, that is okay." So I don't know. Like that, you could probably find a clip of him talking about it.
Who's heard of boundaries before? And just to be clear about the filing, the person who filed it has to file to keep it private. And usually a couple examples, again, I'm not saying any of this is what is in any of this. I obviously don't know. This is the first time hearing of it. So the reasons why is like if there's a minor involved, if there's some kind of harassment involved, those types of things tend to be the reasons that are generally used for keeping these kinds of things private. It doesn't mean that is in this case, but it would have had to have been the ex-wife who filed for that, for example.
And I would believe it. It's just that I can't prove anything about it, you know, and
we don't
thus
know.
I did not say anything.
Yeah.
So past that, did somebody have a question?
Yeah, they were asking, does the scene from Air Force One when the U.S. airplane come to the rescue and you hear Harrison Ford say, "Good guys are here," is that similar to Law Twitter coming to the rescue?
That's certainly how it felt, for sure. Like, because we were like, oh my God, the other side has a lawyer, and we know that lawyer is full of shit, but we can't prove how he's full of shit.
Yeah,
we can't explain it. And then the lawyers showed up, and it was like, there, they'll explain it. Another thing that I kind of left out that was near the end of the video was when Vic released his latest album, right? And it's like, it's got that song that's like hurt people, and it's God, it's an awful song. Have you heard any of the songs on that album? I mean, I don't recommend it, but if you want to laugh, like especially at that music video,
fucking cringe.
Like, super cringe. It's bad. But at one point, almost immediately after that album launched, he went on his YouTube or his Twitch live stream, and he was complaining about how the distribution of his music works, which means he just clearly does not understand how it works. So it ended up going to platforms such as YouTube Music and Spotify. Mm-hmm. And he did not understand that was where it was going to go. And I think he was using a service called DistroKid, I think. And if they were shitty about letting him know where the music goes, then fine. Except, like, he was at an anime convention. He describes the story where he was at an anime convention on the weekend that the album launched. Mm-hmm. And a fan came up to his table and he's like, "Oh my God, this album is so good. I'm listening to it right now on YouTube," where he was legally able to watch it because it got legal distribution there.
Yeah.
And Vic was like, "What do you mean you're listening to it on YouTube?" He was so mad. He was so mad at this. You shouldn't be listening to it on YouTube. Don't pirate my music. What do you mean don't pirate your music? You distributed it to YouTube. And then Spotify, he was like, "You should only be able to get it off of Spotify for download and direct purchase." And I'm going, that's not what Spotify does. That's not what Spotify is. What do you mean? Like, he just doesn't understand.
I don't know. Okay, maybe I'm wrong about this. I grew up in the church, but I am also in Canada. So maybe the culture is different, but there was always this underlying culture that Christians just expect free shit. But, like, from each other specifically.
Yeah.
And if Vic views his fan base, the people he preaches to, as his flock, he just expects free shit. If you want to distribute your music properly, hire somebody to fucking do it.
My understanding is he relied on Squally, so he's not hiring anybody. He's just getting his fans to do shit
paid
for
an
free.
Exposure.
Yeah.
Again, poor girl, but what do you want anybody to do for you at that point? Joseph in the chat said somebody needs some lovin' was on my worst songs of 2024 list. That
Oh
song
god,
was
it's
awful.
awful. It's a terrible
I
song.
have to listen to it later and cringe out of my skin.
Super uncomfortable. So a super uncomfortable song. Um, what's something else I listed here? During that drunken stream that Nick had while he was like playing Dark Souls or whatever, and he was complaining about how Vic wouldn't come onto his show, and then had that very clever thing he had to say about Vic being able to shoot people as a cop.
Yeah.
So that same live stream, he
Yeah.
had some very clever comment to say about, oh yeah, any woman, no matter how shit she is, there's some other shit guy who's willing to fuck her or whatever. Take that Mars Girl person for instance. Somehow she's married to some chump or whatever, and I was just like, one thing that I left out because I wasn't sure if my husband would have been down for it was like
Sure.
I wanted to let that clip play and then hold my hand up for a high five and have my husband come in from off screen and like high five me and do like an explosion sound effect and like bald eagle screeching and just rock and roll music playing. And he only told me later like, oh my god, why didn't you ask me to do that? I would have done it. I wish I had done it now, but
That's funny.
oh well.
Alas. Missed opportunities.
I cut out shit.
Oh, sorry,
I cut out shit that was just biblical, like,
sure.
he's clearly being hypocritical about the Bible here, there, and other places.
There's a lot of false prophecy. I think I made up a word. Vic is a false prophet by all intents and purposes.
Mm-hmm. Those were the bulk of the things. There's some relatively young man that he has picked up as a fan in recent years that ended up being in one of those anime Matsuri shorts. Like he got him a voice acting role in one of those anime Matsuri dubs. And this was a very young dude that met him like at a convention one year as a teenager. And now he's in like college or whatever. And for whatever reason, his relationship with this young man to me has seemed very strange. We've seen Vic gift this young man his weird ass off Hot Topic shirts. Apparently this guy like comes over to his house so that Vic can give him his very metrosexual shirts. And tells him, hey, put on the shirt and get on the live stream with me and the fan I don't know. It's a very strange situation.
There's also clips of him being like really creepy to younger boys, like not even just young girls too. Like there's a lot of that as well, which leads me right back to where we started part of this conversation at Liberty fucking University. Like the assault that goes on there is not directed solely at the girls. Like it's a lot of the girls, but like it's it's women, it's girls, it's boys, it's young men. Like, it's just an absolute shit show. So part of me just thinks that Vic just thinks this is okay because he just grew up around it. So there's nothing creepy about being overtly sexual and whispering in young people's ears. But if that was all, how many times did you think, oh, that's where this should be over? Because I know you've said that a few times in your videos, but
I said it several times.
How many?
It should have stopped here, and then it didn't.
And then it didn't. If a lot of the arguments and the chud types like to say, oh, but this one thing, and maybe I can be like, all right, listen, that's still kind of weird, but as one thing, fine. Like it's still not great, but okay. But we're not dealing with a thing. We're dealing with a thing with thing, and at the center of it is
which
this
is
guy.
why it ended up being 11 hours, because that's the thing. They like to pick it apart to be like, oh, it was just a jelly bean. And like, no, it definitely was not just a jelly bean. Oh my god. I'm so sick of that argument.
Stupid jelly bean. Is that the dumbest one? Is that the dumbest argument you've heard?
Easily, I think. the dumbest one,
It's
like
pretty fucking
fired
stupid.
over a jelly bean.
I
Like even
really
in
enjoyed.
context it's bad, but yes, on its own, it's very stupid. Good thing that's not the only thing it was.
Wow, imagine that. It's. I really enjoyed the definitely not Vic Mignogna character voice acting. I'm the
Sean
talent.
Schemmel. Cause
It's
I'm
a
the
good
fucking
impression.
talent. Yeah. Sean Schemmel does a shockingly good Vic Mignogna impression.
Well, great. We can have him play the next Edward Elric and the next Tamaki. We'll be fine. Don't even have to worry about it. It's almost like he's
We've
always.
got Oh yeah, we've got other people for
Yeah,
days. Like Vic is easily the most replaceable part of any given project.
yeah.
Honestly,
I've seen him talking about this on podcast, and I started being like, but he's not even that great of a voice actor. Like he's fine, but like he doesn't have a whole ton of voice differentiation. And I was comparing him to like other voice actors that he had worked with. So like
sure.
Travis Willingham or Matt Mercer or like these other people who he has worked with. And I'm just like, these people clearly are better at this than he is. Like, we really think that we can't have like anybody be Tamaki? Like,
The people that have replaced him on certain roles sound close enough to him in those roles that it just proves how replaceable he is. He's just a
yeah,
dime a dozen.
yeah. I think he just got lucky. I think he just
For
got
sure.
lucky,
For
and he
sure.
just happens to know and grew up in the place where everybody adjacent to him was already in control of everything else around him, and so he never had to do anything. He never had to grow. He never had to learn, and everything was just fucking handed to him. And this is the first time
Well,
he's actually
also,
taken a real L.
anime, as it was being produced largely out of Texas at that point in time for a bunch of those
Mm-hmm.
anime dubs, like it was just easy for anybody who was literally any kind of actor to kind of just walk in the door and start getting roles. And
Yeah,
like it's different now.
time and
That's
place.
not how you do it now, but as the industry was building in the 90s and the early 2000s, it was very much that easy to kind of just
Absolutely.
walk in.
Well,
So
especially if you're
it does
also
not
buddy
shock
buddies with some
me.
higher ups in your town.
Oh sure, oh sure. So it totally does not shock me how he got to be where he did.
Mm-hmm.
But him trying to branch out into anything else past that, he becomes the small fish in the big pond after that.
Yeah, can't handle it.
So
He's fragile. Um,
very fragile.
People are saying that they are surprised that nobody is reacting to it, and I think I have at least one opinion about this, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but
Hmm.
when you lay out facts one to one, like your video does, it is very hard to spin a narrative outside of that. I have found when it
Hmm.
comes to harassment campaigns and harassment groups, the thing that shuts these people up the most is if you can say, you said this thing, you show them saying that thing, now here's why this thing is problematic, and you give a little bit of extra
Hmm.
context on either side. And like one of the law tubers that exist used to harass me, and he
Yeah.
stopped. Why? Because I found a clip of him saying when he switched from being a cop to being a DA that, oh, you've got another one? Oh, come on, you didn't find that thing in that guy's pocket. And I knew all the tricks because I was doing that shit too.
Oh my god.
He left me
What an
alone after that.
asshole. Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So this is like a cop who is a guy admitting on a stream that he was planting evidence on people as a cop and then accusing other cops that he knew that he was friends with, that he claimed he was friends with, saying he knew that they were doing it. Like,
Why are people so bad at this?
I don't
Why are
fucking
they
know,
so
dude.
shit and they're bad at this?
I don't fucking know, dude. It's so. Well, I don't know why people shoot themselves in the foot so much, but I've always found like that type of thing is one of the best one to one things you can do that will
Mhm.
get these fucking people to shut up or at least stop fucking trying to spew shit everywhere. Like you said, they're in their own little pockets being little shitheads, and like, yeah, okay, fine. Who cares?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, I guess that does sound pretty accurate. Yeah, there's not a lot of. If they tried to push back in any way, like they would slip up. It would be very easy to see that they were full of shit
Yeah.
because I already showed how they were full of shit the first time. So,
Oh, and like in the comment section, oh, you didn't watch the video, did you? You're just fucking embarrassing
Yeah.
yourself. Like, what are you even doing?
yeah.
Take the L, move on, find a new thing to get upset about. Maybe this time, don't do the dumb thing. But we should probably wrap up here. How you feeling?
Sure.
You feel like you got
not too
everything?
bad. Yeah, that's pretty much the whole thing. So
That's good. You have any plans for the future? You're just trying to like recover, relax a little bit, and then decide what you want to do?
I got a bunch of freelance work I got to wrap up, but past that, I wanted to get back to blogging some more. But some people were like, hey, if you actually created video content that made you happy from this point on, I would totally be here for that. And so I'm sitting here thinking on, well, if I were to come back, what would I do? So it's going to take me a little while to figure that out, but excuse me, I wouldn't be totally adverse to coming back and actually doing content that is about fun topics that I actually enjoy. So.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for joining us. I got one note I'm going to leave us on because you brought up Slap and you brought up John Oliver, and I thought this was appropriate. So I'm going to play this for you real quick, and we'll wrap up on that.
Fuck that guy and his fucking YouTube videos. Stop listening to a man who doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, you idiots!
He's right. He's right, you know.
He's right, you know. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been great having you.
Thank
I'll
you.
make sure anything, if you're working on anything, I'm more than happy to link it down in the description below when you're ready to add it. I will make sure Lindsay's talk gets added. I'm definitely looking forward to watching that. And go and check out the video. If you haven't watched it, absolutely go and fucking watch it. It's amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to get on out of here, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.